Good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for Sunday, August the 7th. Today we are reading in Micah chapter 5 and finishing up our read through 2 Timothy. We'll be in 2 Timothy chapter 4 today. Micah 5, 2 Timothy 4. Let me go ahead and get Micah's text up on the screen for us. And just to be fully transparent, prophets are tough. I mean, it is tough as we've been working our way through it, and at least from my perspective, just trying to keep everything in the right order and trying to understand exactly which text is referring to what and when fulfillment is made when and all those things. It's just tough. And this portion of Micah here is difficult. And it's difficult because there's just so many different interpretations that people apply to these texts. For example, as I was reading some stuff just to get some extra prep in on these texts, there's a great many authors who are really good on a number of other things. Wiersbe, in particular, is a great author that really does a great job, I think, in many respects, in helping to shed good light on various texts. But once it gets into the prophets, he gets a little squirrely. He is very premillennial. So there's so much that is found here within the prophets that he believes is still yet to even be fulfilled. And this is one of those texts where he foresees what is taking place within these texts as being something that's going to happen in the future whenever Jesus returns and establishes his kingdom. Again, this is Wiersbe's understanding. He doesn't see the kingdom as being here now. And I very much disagree with that. I think Jesus's kingdom is here. It is real. It is in force now. Having said that, it is not in its fullness yet. Why? Well, because not every enemy has been put under the foot of Jesus. That's going to happen in the end, whenever every enemy is put under his feet, with death, as we see in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, being the final enemy being put under his feet and being crushed by King Jesus. And that will certainly take place in the resurrection on the last day. So as I'm reading through this, I'm trying to keep things straight, and I just have to recognize that there's sometimes whenever we read through these texts, that the text, though it might have a partial immediate fulfillment, which again, these texts, they had to mean something to those who were receiving them. It just doesn't seem very logical to me that any of these texts would have nothing to do with those who were receiving them at that time. I think they had something to do with them, but I think, as we'll see specifically in this text, there is only a small taste in which they're going to see these things fulfilled within their time. Because surely, ultimately, this is pointing to Jesus. And that is seen by Matthew and other gospel writers' use of Jesus within this text, recognizing him as being the ruler who was born in Bethlehem and such. Speaks of Jesus being a shepherd, which is something we're going to be talking about here soon in our biblical leadership class. So there is a part in which this became true for those who were in exile and being able to return from exile. But truly, the ultimate fulfillment of them is true in Jesus. That is seen whenever he was here on the earth, whenever he was crucified and resurrected and established his kingdom. And so much of this now is true within the kingdom of Jesus, and in the kingdom of heaven. So I say all that just to be fully transparent that these texts are a bit tough, and it takes some wrestling with these texts to try to understand them as best we can. So I appreciate your patience as we read through these. Again, we're not going to break down these things to levels beyond scientific to really just get down to the syllables of each word. But these are encouraging texts, and I hope that you've benefited just from reading through them. And I hope that your curiosity and desire to understand these texts on a deeper level might even lead you to some deeper study on your own. So with all that said, a lot to be said there. I'm going to go ahead and we'll read together from, we're going to go ahead and read together from Micah chapter 5. Micah chapter 5. All right, Micah chapter 5 and verse number 1. Now you, daughter, who is under attack, you slash yourself in grief. A siege is set against us. They are striking the judge of Israel on the cheek with a rod. Bethlehem, Ephrathah, you are small among the clans of Judah. One will come from you to be ruler over Israel for me. His origin is from antiquity, from ancient times. Therefore, Israel will be abandoned until the time when she who is in labor has given birth. Then the rest of the ruler's brothers will return to the people of Israel. He will stand and shepherd them in the strength of the Lord, in the majestic name of the Lord his God. They will live securely, for then his greatness will extend to the ends of the earth. He will be their peace when Israel invades our land, when it marches against our fortresses. We will raise against it 7 shepherds, even 8 leaders of men. They will shepherd the land of Assyria with a sword, the land of Nimrod with a drawn blade. So he will rescue us from Assyria when it invades our land, when it marches against our territory. Then the remnant of Jacob will be among many peoples, like dew from the Lord, like showers on the grass, which do not wait for anyone or linger for mankind. Then the remnant of Jacob will be among the nations, among many peoples, like a lion among animals of the forest, so like a young lion among flocks of sheep, which tramples and tears as it passes through, and there is no one to rescue them. Your hand will be lifted up against your adversaries, and all your enemies will be destroyed. In that day, this is the Lord's declaration, I will remove your horses from you and wreck your chariots. I will remove the cities of your land and tear down all your fortresses. I will remove sorceries from your hands, and you will not have any more fortune tellers. I will remove your carved images and sacred pillars from you, so that you will no longer worship the work of your hands. I will pull up the Asherah poles from among you and demolish your cities. I will take vengeance in anger and wrath against the nations that have not obeyed me. Micah chapter 5. Obviously, very great deal of messianic undertones here. Verse 2, talking about from Bethlehem coming, the ruler over Israel, speaks of him being as a shepherd. In verse 4, verse 6 recognizes that it is he, it is this shepherd, this kingly figure. And of course, as we see, he's doing all this in the strength of the Lord, that it is God who is behind the power of this individual to deliver them. And all this is going to be for the benefit of the remnants of Jacob. They're going to be among the nations, among the peoples, and yet they're going to be brought back together, and God is going to deliver them. And then at the end, in that day, this is the Lord's declaration, speaks of the destruction. Reading through this, it seems to be the destruction of the nations. That seems to be the reality here, that God is going to judge the nations for their even rebellion against him, even though they are not his specially chosen people. God being the God of all creation, God being the God of all people, will hold them accountable for their sins and rebellion against him. So again, this is very messianic in nature, and there are some portions of this in which there might be an immediate understanding or an immediate fulfillment during the historical context in which it was written. Well, really, this is very much looking towards the future and looking forward to Jesus and what he is going to do among not just Israel, but among all the nations, with how much the nations are mentioned here within this particular text. So as we read it, understand it, being, I guess, in some senses fulfilled immediately, but really this is looking long-term, looking at Jesus and the work that he is going to accomplish in the name of God. All right, Micah chapter 5. Tomorrow, whenever we read through Micah chapter 6, we're going to get back to the sins of the people. Remember, a lot of times the prophets are very circular in their writings, that they just kind of take cycles of going through the same issues over and over again, just from a different perspective on a number of occasions. We're going to see that here within this text as Micah once again focuses in on the sins of Israel and their struggles. That'll be Micah chapter 6 tomorrow. All right, let's go and finish up our reading through 2 Timothy 4 now. 2 Timothy chapter 4, the last writing here of Paul to Timothy that we have preserved for us. Kind of the last words of Paul, we might refer to them as. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse number 1, I, being Paul, solemnly charge you, being Timothy, before God and Christ Jesus, who is who is going to judge the living and the dead, and because of his appearing in his kingdom, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, rebuke, correct, and encourage with great patience and teaching. For the time will come when people will not tolerate sound doctrine, but according to their own desires will multiply teachers for themselves, because they have an itch to hear what they want to hear. They will turn away from hearing the truth and will turn aside to myths. But as for you, exercise self-control in everything, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time for my departure is close. I have fought the good fight. I finished the race. I've kept the faith. There is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day. And not only me, but to all those who have loved his appearing. Make every effort to come to me soon, because Demas has deserted me, since he loved this present world and has gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Bring Mark with you, for he is useful to me in the ministry. I have sent Tychicus to Ephesus, and when you come, bring the cloak I left in Troas with Carpus, as well as the scrolls, especially the parchments. Alexander the coppersmith did great harm to me. The Lord will repay him according to his works. Watch out for him yourself, because he strongly opposed our words. At my first offense, no one stood with me, but everyone deserted me. May it not be counted against them. But the Lord stood with me and strengthened me, so that I might fully preach the word and all the Gentiles might hear it. So I was rescued from the lion's mouth. The Lord will rescue me from every evil work and will bring me safely into his heavenly kingdom. To him be the glory forever and ever. Amen. Greet Prisca and Aquila and the household of Onesiphorus. Erastus has remained at Corinth, and I left Trophimus sick at Miletus. Make every effort to come before winter. Eubulus greet you, as do Pudens and Linus and Claudia and all the brothers and sisters. The Lord be with your spirit. Grace be with you all. 2 Timothy chapter 4, and the conclusion of Paul's second letter to Timothy that we have. Of course, within this chapter is well known for various reasons. We have Paul's charge to Timothy concerning what he expects out of Timothy as a servant, and we can, I believe, generally understand as being the expectations that Paul has for all workers of the gospel, all ministers of the gospel, that they need to make sure that they're going to speak the truth at all times, that there is never going to be a willingness to conform the message or to surrender the purity of the message in order to tickle ears. That certainly is not the case of Paul's desires, and that's what we as ministers and teachers and preachers should be shooting for as well. And yet we see the confidence of Paul here within this text, that he recognizes that, I've been doing this. It seems to be that my time of doing such is getting ready to draw short, and there is an almost puzzling sense of peace from Paul, puzzling to the world, I should say. Most people would not feel okay with death being right before them, but Paul's okay because he has this confidence in his faith. He has confidence in the Lord, in which his faith is rooted and is founded. So therefore, he can be at peace in this moment. There are some personal remarks here, but finally, the Lord stood with me and strengthened me. Everyone else abandoned me, but the Lord stood with me and strengthened me. And that really is the foundation of why Paul can behave this way and can have this type of mindset and attitude, is that he recognized that he was never truly alone, that even if there was no one physically there with him, that the Lord stood with him and strengthened him and even delivered him in a number of occasions from particular dangers. But now he says, I don't think I'm going to be delivered from this one. And that's okay. So we understand then something I mentioned recently as well, that the Lord being with us does not mean that we're going to be delivered from every struggle that we face. That's not what it means at all. It does mean that he is still with us, and it might not be that we're delivered physically, but there will always be deliverance there spiritually. That's so long as our faith remains in him and we remain confident in his faithfulness, then we'll be fine. Even if we suffer bodily here in very many ways, even to the point of death, that's okay. Because just as Paul said, I'm ready to be poured out. And I have confidence in who I believed in. And I have confidence in the resurrection. I have confidence in eternal salvation. I have confidence in reigning with Christ. And he says, but not only for me, I don't have this confidence only for myself, but for all of those who have loved his appearing. So do we long for the appearing of Jesus? Do we long for that? We should, and we can if we are standing in faithfulness before him. Yet if we have a fear, if we have a lack of confidence, then that might be a sign that we need to do some self-evaluation. We need to be looking inwardly, considering our faith to see whether or not it is what it ought to be. And we need to seek to strengthen it. If there is fear there, we can strengthen that. We can be courageous. We can have confidence in our Lord and his faithfulness, because that's the reality is there. It should not be about our faithfulness, because we don't earn our way to anything. No, we must put our faith fully in Jesus, fully in God, and recognize that their faithfulness and that grace and mercy that they extend, that's what's going to save us. Are we trusting in that? Are we responding to that faithfulness with our own faithfulness? Are we responding to the grace given to us with grace-filled living? We need to. And if we do that, then we can have full confidence. That doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect. That doesn't mean we're always going to make the right decision or the best decision. Yeah, we're going to stumble and fall from time to time. But again, it's about where is the heart in everything that we're doing? Are we really striving to do what's right? If we are, then we're going to recognize those times where we haven't made the best decisions, where we made the mistakes, and we'll seek to correct those. And we'll seek to, again, to put our full trust in Jesus. So let me encourage us all to live with this type of Pauline mindset, where we are confident and looking forward to that day, knowing what a great day it will be. Thank you so much for tuning into this reading. Looking forward to being with everybody again here in a little while as we gather together for Bible study and for worship. It's going to be a great day with the church in Loudon. I'm really looking forward to it. Enjoy the rest of the Sunday. We'll look forward to reading with you again tomorrow from Micah chapter 6, and we'll start to read through Titus. We'll be in Titus chapter 1, Micah 6 and Titus 1 on the schedule for tomorrow. Looking forward to reading that with you then. Take care and God bless.